So let's talk about the new AI arms race. I mean, it feels like a completely crowded and confusing battlefield, right? So today, we're going to break down exactly who's who. We're talking everyone from the companies building the brains of this thing to the ones supplying all the muscle. All right, let's just dive right in.
You know what's funny? In most tech revolutions, you see a couple of giants just take over, right? They dominate everything. But AI, it's doing the complete opposite. This field isn't shrinking down to a few winners. No way. It is absolutely exploding. The race is just getting more and more intense, and it feels like new challengers are popping up every single day.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get the big picture of the AI arms race. Then, we'll meet the brains, the ones building the actual models. After that, the brawn, the hardware that makes it all possible. We'll check out the champions of open source, see who's putting AI everywhere, and then wrap up by looking at what's next. It's an unwritten future.
So, the AI arms race. And you might be asking, what does this arms race actually look like? Well, you can forget a simple sprint to a finish line. That's not what this is. It's way more like this chaotic, multi-front war where the battlefields and, the players themselves are just constantly shifting.
In the competition, it's happening at every single level. People in the industry call it the stack. Think of it like a layer cake. It starts at the very bottom with the physical computer chips, then it moves up to the super complex AI models, and it all ends up in the apps you're using on your phone. It's this battle on every single layer that makes the whole thing so dynamic and honestly almost impossible to predict.
Okay, let's jump in with the brains of the operation, the frontier models. These are the labs building the most powerful AI minds out there. We're talking about the absolute cutting edge, the systems that are pushing the limits of what we even thought was possible. You could almost think of them as the architects of intelligence itself.
Right, so at the very, very top of the mountain, you've really got four major players slugging it out. I'm sure you've heard of most of them: OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and the newcomer that's been making a lot of noise, xAI. These are the labs that are locked in this constant battle for that #1 spot.
So first up, of course, is OpenAI. I mean, these are the guys who basically fired the starting pistol for this entire race with ChatGPT. And while the tools we all use are revolutionary, their real mission? It's way more ambitious. They're trying to build artificial general intelligence, AGI, and at the same time, figure out how to solve the absolutely massive safety problems that come along with creating something that powerful.
And then you've got Google. Now, Google has this incredible, powerful advantage. It's called vertical integration. What does that mean? It means they control the entire pipeline. Seriously, from designing their very own custom computer chips, their TPUs, to building their powerful Gemini models and then pushing them out to a product ecosystem that, let's be real, billions of us use. That gives them a kind of control that pretty much nobody else can even touch. Okay, next up is Anthropic, and they're a fascinating company because they're kind of built on two big ideas at once. On one hand, they're creating these incredibly powerful models like their Claude series, which are famous for their really sophisticated reasoning. But at the exact same time, their whole reason for existing is AI safety. They're trying to make sure these super powerful systems actually stay aligned with what we humans want as they get smarter and smarter. And then there's the powerful newcomer, xAI. Man, they just burst onto the scene and shot right up the leaderboards. Their latest model, Grok, proved that they can go toe-to-toe with the big, established giants. They're the perfect example of just how fast a new, well-funded team can totally shake things up.
All right, so we've met the brains. Now let's get into the brawn, the building blocks. We're talking about the hardware that powers this whole revolution. Because let's be clear, none of this AI magic happens without a truly immense amount of computer power. And that all comes from very specialized hardware. This stuff is the absolute foundation of the entire ecosystem.
And believe me, the battle for the silicon, for the chips themselves, is every bit as intense as the battle for the smartest AI. In this arena, you've got two heavyweights locked in this epic struggle for dominance. And really, their competition sets the pace for innovation across the whole industry. So in one corner, you have NVIDIA. They are the undisputed king right now. Their GPUs, they're basically the default for training these huge AI models. And their new Blackwell system, wow, it just cements their lead even further. But it is not a monopoly. Right on their heels is AMD. They are a serious challenger, competing super aggressively on both performance and price. It's really turning into a true two-horse race for who builds the hardware that runs all of AI. Okay, so everything we've talked about so far has been about companies building this super secret, closely guarded technology. But there is a completely different way of thinking about this, a whole other philosophy, the open source movement, and that's all about sharing their code with the world. Let's dig into how that builds a totally different kind of power.
So here's the fundamental difference, the big divide. You have the proprietary, or closed strategy. That's what folks like OpenAI and Anthropic do. Their model is basically a black box. You can't see inside. Then you have the open weight strategy, which is the complete opposite. These companies actually release the core of their models, the weights, so that literally anyone on the planet can look under the hood, tweak them, and build totally new things on top.
And who's the biggest champion of this open strategy? It's gotta be Meta. By releasing their super powerful Llama models for free, they've essentially created a new industry standard for the entire open source community to build on. I mean, it's an incredibly bold move, and it's turned them into a real dark horse in this race just by sparking this explosion of innovation all over the world.
But listen, Meta is not alone here. The open source world is truly global and super diverse. You got European powerhouses like the French startup Mistral AI, and their models are good enough to directly challenge the top closed ones. You have state-of-the-art open models coming out of China from firms like DeepSeek and Alibaba. Then you have the big guys like IBM, who are building open models specifically for businesses. And you can't forget pioneers like Stability AI, who really got the whole open source image generation thing going. And the glue holding this whole community together? That's Hugging Face. They're like the central hub for this entire movement.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. How does all this powerful, abstract technology actually make it into our hands? Well, that's where the integrators come in. We're talking about the giants who are embedding AI into the tools and products that you and I use every single day.
And this right here is where the arms race hits home for all of us. The big tech companies are in an all-out war to get AI into their ecosystems. I mean, think about it. Microsoft is jamming Copilot into everything. Amazon is using AI to power both AWS and Alexa. Apple is weaving Apple Intelligence into all of its devices. Adobe is embedding its Firefly AI right into the creative tools that millions of people depend on. The end game here? It's to make AI so seamless, so integrated that it becomes an invisible but absolutely essential part of your digital life.
But it's not just the huge companies. There's this whole new wave of what you might call AI native companies, building these incredible specialized tools. You have Runway, which is just blowing the doors off what's possible with video generation. You have 11 Labs, creating synthetic voices so realistic they're almost impossible to tell from a real person. And then there's a company like Perplexity AI, which is taking on the giants by completely rethinking what a search engine should even be in the first place. So, an unwritten future. Where does all of this leave us? Well, the only thing that's really certain is that nothing is certain. We are still in the very, very early days of this race. And as we've just seen, the finish line seems to be moving further away, not closer.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that the AI world is not some simple pyramid with one winner at the top. It's just not like that. It's more like a complex, living, breathing ecosystem, a truly dynamic battlefield. All the way from the chips that power everything to the chatbots on our screens, you have players of all sizes, with all kinds of different strategies, all competing to decide what the future looks like.
And that really leaves us with the billion-dollar question for the future, doesn't it? In a race that has no clear winner, maybe not even a finish line, which strategy is ultimately going to come out on top? Will it be the closely guarded secrets of closed competition, or will it be the chaotic, explosive, decentralized innovation of open collaboration? Right now, nobody knows. The answer is still being written.